Shadarek here with a video on Vengeful Retreat usage in Mythic Plus regarding initiative and your empowered blade dances for Fury of the Eldrazi damage. So, I've been recommending for a long time that you should Vengeful Retreat for your empowered blade dances, which is definitely the case. However, there is something that I found that kind of came up in like a coaching session that I was doing, and it's pretty important to note. A lot of the time, what I see is Vengeful Retreat will be used around the same time that they're pressing the Blade Dance for the Fury of the Eldrazi. So it's been known largely by a lot of people, and I get asked all the time as well, whether or not you can miss parts of the Fury of the Eldrazi or the Blade Dance. So the answer on that is always yes, but it's not the easiest thing to really miss, especially because Fury of the Eldrazi happens fast. A lot faster than the actual Blade Dance itself does. So if you look in here at the timestamp, and I'll scroll down a bit, it takes about 0.55 of a second for all the Fury of the Eldrazi hits to trigger, which is very quick, just over half a second. It's faster than Blade Dance itself, which is a little weird for how many hits it does, but it does just chain them out very quickly. However, when you do a Vengeful Retreat into a Blade Dance, there is a separate issue. And we can see it in the log here, where there's two different things happening. And we can also see it in this log here from the coaching session, where I noticed this to be like an actually pretty significant issue. But just to look at it, this is what kind of Blade Dance I'm talking about not wanting to do. This is a Vengeful Retreat being done at the same time as an Empowered Blade Dance. So you can see in the clip here, and I'll even slow it down. I'm going to throw the glaive, do my Chaos Strike, and then I'm going to Vengeful with the Blade Dance. So, and just to do that again at maximum speed, because it looks a little weird at half speed. It's a very common and normal thing to do, but it is bad. And what I'm saying is Vengeful should be used earlier, so coming back to the start of the poll, when everything is getting grouped here, Vengeful should just be thrown anytime around now. Around or before this I-beam, within 5 seconds of that Blade Dance being pressed, but you want to use the Vengeful Retreat before it, and I'll show another example clip after. But you see here, I throw the glaive, and I Vengeful with the Blade Dance. Now clearly all of that Blade Dance hit, without any problems, but the problem that exists is this. When we go into the log, there's two different things. The first one's obviously pretty minor, which is the first hit on all mobs. So if I uncheck this and I go to all mobs, you can see the first hit on 6 different mobs doesn't have initiative. So it does not have 10% increased critical strike chance. That's unfortunate, but relatively minor, considering that's 1 out of 12 hits. Where the issue really comes in is this. Know Your Enemy is not updated instantly off of your stat sheet. I don't know 100% whether critical strike chance or not works this way, so I don't know for 100% certainty whether or not it's showing the initiative buff here means that it is buffed by critical strike chance. However, what I can tell is that Know Your Enemy does not work. And a better example, I may be able to find a better example elsewhere. The reason why I'm not looking at one with a critical strike on the first hit here is that the first 2 hits had Thrill of the Fight, and the rest of the hits didn't. And nothing snapshots, so you can see the first 2 hits did 15% more damage. But coming down here, the crits are for 585,000, and there is not damage variance on Fury of the Eldrazi. It does do a set amount of damage, it doesn't have that plus minus 5%, and then these last 2 hits, where Know Your Enemy finally has kicked in, it does 20,000 more damage. Now, that extra 20,000, it's not an incredibly large amount. We're looking at 605, 322 divided by 585, 740, so it's doing about 3.34% more damage on those critical hits, which makes sense because it's giving about 8% critical strike damage. I have, without initiative, This is my beta gear, unfortunately, so it's not a great example. But typically I'm sitting somewhere closer to 40 to 45% crit, so we're looking at something like going from 232% to 240% critical strike damage. 240 divided by 232 is about 3.4. So in the same ballpark, just to kind of show the math on why I know that that's what's occurring here. And again, in this other log, the one where I first noticed it, it happens earlier. I'm not sure exactly on the tick rate of this, but you can see the jump happens from here, where the first hit, which is the first hit on both mobs, initiative again wasn't there. Then initiative comes in, and down here on hit number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hit number 7 is the first one with increased critical strike damage. 539696 to 557657. So not only are you losing the initiative hit on the first tick of Fury of the Eldrazi, and you don't get the 10% crit on 1 out of 12 hits, but you also aren't getting Know Your Enemy whenever this does happen, because initiative is proccing at the same time off of this. You're not getting it on at least half of the hits. So in this case, only 6 hits were in the buff window for Know Your Enemy. I'm going to make a small note on that, which is weird, which is that... well, in this case, I actually don't know for certain, but I could try to find a different log where hit number 6 here is a critical strike. But I don't believe that this is consistent, because again, looking at this log here, it's all the way down on hit number 10 that Know Your Enemy still has not kicked in until hit 11 and 12. So I think this is something to do with server tick rate, and again, the damage happens just so quickly, in 0.55 of a second, that it's likely that Know Your Enemy scales up your critical strike damage on some irregular interval. So what I'm suggesting you change is that you, again, don't do the Vengeful like I did in this clip here, where I Vengeful and then go to the Blade Dance at the same time. Because I'm throwing the Glaive, doing the Annihilation, and I hit the Blade Dance as I Vengeful. And you can see a lot of that hits, and then you can see it scale up just on those last 2 ticks there. So this is something we specifically don't want to be doing. The way you do want to do it is what I did in this other clip here. So on this one, you just want to get the Vengeful out sometime prior to the Blade Dance, but within 5 seconds of it. So you're still using it on that Empowered Blade Dance. This fits 2 benefits. One, you're going to be pressing Vengeful Retreat faster, like closer to on cooldown, so you should get a couple more out per key, but for the most part, you're actually getting most of the benefit of the damage. So in this clip here, I Vengeful Retreat well before my Blade Dance comes up, but you can still see Initiative has a long amount left on the buff when I am going to be able to Blade Dance, 1.8 seconds. And as I mentioned, the damage happens within 0.5 of a second. So my Blade Dance is entirely finished within just under a second of when that Initiative buff went on me, and the whole window is actually buffed with the critical strike chance and the critical strike damage. Now, as for how much impact this has over a key, debatable. I don't use my initiative perfectly, and I don't even try to. If I was using it perfectly, my cast and the cast per minute would be over 2. Mine's closer to, currently 1.4. I have massive gaps where I'm not actually using it, but this is a relevant amount of damage that is losing from the bug, so just something very minor, but worth noting since it's off GCD, and there's a lot of cases where you can use the Vengeful Retreat prior anyways, just with a Chaos Strike or something. The additional benefit is, and the reason why I've been recommending this for quite a while, is that when you go to do this, you get to use the movement during different globals, and you're back in position already for your Blade Dance. You're also not going to worry about missing any of that window. You're not going to be Vengefuling out of a pack during a Blade Dance and missing part of the pack. So, that's about everything for this video. Just use your Vengeful prior to Blade Dance instead of at the same time. A lot of different reasons why, but I didn't know about the Know Your Enemy interaction until more recently. The fact that it doesn't update instantly, it's a little bit cringe, but I'm not surprised. I don't think it's something that needs to be fixed either. It's kind of likely to be something to do with the coding of World of Warcraft and reduction of like so many server side events, something like that. So thank you guys for watching, and if you want to keep up to date with Havoc, I'd appreciate a follow on my channel. See you in the next one.